The following event was pre-recorded and edited for time.
Rev Up and the Arc, Georgia celebrate National Voter Registration Day with creations by Albany artist Derek Hurd. A young black man proudly displays voter rights' fist of righteousness in front of Starburst. Yellow scales of justice in Starburst above crowd of diverse hands raised in front of blue background. Folk art of affordable housing graph showing race, gender, and economic status. Fist of Justice flies above voting rights banner as an African-American voter holds ballot on a blue background. Folk art of Georgia Advocacy Office staff saying we are here to help voters. Get Out the Vote Celebration 2021. Young African-American male drawing on sketchpad. Young African-American male showing the beginning of a painting. Folk art of Senate Bill 241 with wording, "No transportation, no mail-in vote for you." Plane with banner, accessible transportation. Train with banner, one reason I vote. Young African-American artist holds his art piece. Nothing about us without us. To register to vote or check on your voter status, please visit mvp.sos.ga.gov.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the 2022 Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities GCDD Candidate Forum. My name is Darcy Robb, and I'm the Executive Director for GCDD. I'm a white woman with dark brown hair wearing a black and white dress, and I am so thrilled that y'all have come out tonight. At GCDD, our mission is to make social and policy changes so Georgians with developmental disabilities and their families can live, learn, work, play, and worship in their Georgia communities. And we are proud at GCDD to be the state's leader in advancing public policy for folks with developmental disabilities. And preview, a major focus for our public policy on the state level this year is advocating for addressing the waiver waiting list and livable direct support provider wages, both of which are critical for folks with developmental disabilities to live in the community. And speaking of community, the 2022 midterm election in Georgia is a little over a month away, and democracy is not a spectator sport. Oh, I'll take applause on that. Now, here in Georgia, we voters are going to be voting in 9 statewide races this year, and that includes our governor, lieutenant governor, and secretary of state. Now, we have reached out to every candidate running for all 9 of these offices, Republican, Democrat, and Libertarian, and I am very pleased to tell you that candidates from 8 of the 9 races are going to be represented tonight. Now, some candidates are here in person and will be answering questions up here on stage. Others are joining us virtually or via a video submission or a written statement. But this is your chance to hear firsthand whether their political platform aligns with your beliefs and your vision for the state of Georgia and the disability community. Because your vote matters, and the voting palette of the disability community matters. So we need to say a big thank you to the many disability rights agencies that help make this forum happen. And those are the GAO, the Georgia Advocacy Office, Sangha Unity Network, Rev Up Georgia, and Crimmins and Associates. We could not have done this without you all. All right, so let's get started. Our host tonight is Charlie Miller. Charlie is the Legislative Advocacy Director for GCDD. He is our on-the-ground contact for candidates, public policy, and bringing the community together. Floor is all yours, Charlie.
Thank you so much, Darcy. How in the world are y'all doing tonight? Oh, come on, y'all. How in the world are you doing tonight? Oh, thank the Lord. Oh, my gosh. I'm so happy y'all are here tonight. And I am so excited to be able to be the MC of tonight and see such amazing advocates, community members, and family members out tonight. So give yourself a round of applause. So folks, my name is Charlie Miller. As I said, I am a white male sitting in a wheelchair with a dark blue suit with blue pin lines. And I think I'm pretty handsomely dressed, I'm not gonna lie. So before we get started, I want to make sure that I lay down some rules of the forum. So, just like a Zoom event, each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer two questions pre-selected that we have ready. We have a timekeeper on the floor to make sure the restraints on the time is honored. Y'all, I want y'all to give a big round of applause to our coworker, Star Bruder, for doing that today. Trust me, she is ready to stop people and cut the mics. So, our third rule, we have several disability community leaders in the audience tonight, heck yes, that have been selected to ask the candidates questions. And y'all, they're sitting at this table, so let's give them a round of applause too, y'all. And just like accessibility, I would say is my middle name, we want to make sure access is for all people in the state of Georgia. So we have American Sign Language interpreters tonight that are here, as well as card service, and we are excited to have them here to help us make this all accessible. If you need Spanish interpretation, please, please, please head to the link on your screen, somewhere on my screen, so you can access it. If you're watching virtually, hi y'all! I'm so glad you're here tonight. If you're watching virtually from around the state, please use any of our social media platforms to type in your thoughts and comments in the chat, and we will share them during the forum. And y'all, we want community participation. The candidates have been given pre-selected questions, like I've said, from the disability community. The community made sure these questions are for the candidates. The community is asking. That's going to be the key theme throughout the night, so I want to make sure y'all got that. And when it comes to safety, y'all, we all know this has been a really hard 2-3 years now dealing with this COVID pandemic. So please do whatever you need to do to keep your family safe. Please use your discretion in making your masking and other safety decisions. And let's give one more big shout out to all the virtual parties taking place all over the state of Georgia. We're so glad you're here. And remember, virtual parties, you can add your thoughts in the chat. You can add your thoughts in the chat, and we will make sure to put them have them on throughout the night. So folks, let's get this started. Let's hear from some amazing candidates tonight. So the first office that we're going to hear from tonight is the state school superintendent. This person holds the office in the administrative head of Georgia's kindergarten through 12th public school education system. This year's candidates are Republican Richard Woods and Democrat Alicia Thomas Surrey. Participating tonight, we have Alicia Thomas Surrey and Richard Woods. But I want to make sure I give a moment for the community leaders to be prepared to ask the questions.
Hi everyone, how are you doing this afternoon? Good. So hello, my name is Darian Todd. I work at the Center for Leadership and Disability at Georgia State University as their community advocate specialist. I identify as a person with an intellectual and developmental disability. I also am a self-advocate and a disability advocate at that. So my first question that I have for the people that are either here or virtually is, what steps do you propose to develop fully inclusive school systems in our state that support students with disabilities without separating them from their peers? My second question here I have for you guys is, what can GADOE do to strengthen its relationship with inclusive post-secondary education IPSE programs to ensure that students with disabilities are fully aware of the options available to them in timely manner prior to graduation? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darian. So I want to give a quick image description of the video we're about to see. Miss Surrey is an African-American woman with brown shoulder-length hair, a blue blazer, and pearl necklace, with a bookshelf and her campaign logo behind her. So let's watch the video.
Hello to my friends of the Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities. I am Alicia Thomas Surrey, your candidate for state school superintendent. I'm so sorry that I'm not there with you tonight, but know that you are absolutely in my hearts and I'm there in spirit. I'm a former state legislator from Cobb County, the first African American elected to serve from Cobb, and served 12 years, 6 terms. I'm also a former superintendent, having experience leading schools in the metro Atlanta area. I'm also a mom of 3 school-aged children. One of them has an IEP. And so I understand as a mom the importance of advocating for my child, sitting on that side of the table, making sure that she has all of the resources that she needs. I also have experience as a superintendent, sitting on the other side of that table, advocating not just for one child, but all of the children that we serve who had varying abilities. And so it's important to me to talk to you about why I need to be the next state school superintendent. For too long, we have had Georgians who have been left behind, whether it's because of their race, because of their zip code, because of their parents' financial status, or even their disability. And I need you to know that I'm running for state school superintendent because I will be a champion for students, for parents, and for educators. And I believe that we must create an educational system that meets the needs of all of our children. One of the things that is absolutely important to me is voting rights. As I worked on education as a state legislator, I also spent a great deal of time advocating for voting rights. And so I want you to know that while the laws have changed, my heart, my compassion, my dedication to making sure everyone has access to the ballot has not. And so one of the things that I'm committed to doing is ensuring that we use our campaign to educate Georgians about how to access the ballot, ways that you can get engaged in the process, and of course, ensure that none of the new laws have a negative impact on you and your ability to be accommodated. I look forward to working with the council That's not an area of expertise that I have to connect voting with individuals with disabilities, but I hope that we can work together to figure out what else I can do to be helpful to ensure that everyone has access to the ballot. The other issue that I wanted to talk about is how we ensure that students with disabilities have opportunities to become self-employed or business owners once they graduate from high school. Another reason I'm running for state school superintendent is because we have to stop trying to deliver a telegram education to a TikTok generation. And what I mean by that is we're still doing education the way we've done it since the 1800s. And when we think about the diverse populations that we have in our state, including individuals with disabilities, we have to ensure that our education system is reflective of those that we serve. One of those things that I want to do to ensure that we are delivering a TikTok education is offering opportunities to learn, for students to learn about entrepreneurship, self-employment, how it is that they can develop the skills that they need to be self-sufficient once they graduate from high school. Everybody's not going to go to college, and that's okay. But we have a number of pathways in our state that we have available, but we also need to develop more, especially in the area of entrepreneurship. We live in a society where, in fact, everybody is not going to go into a traditional job. In fact, I'm one that's really never had a traditional job other than being a superintendent. The rest of my career, I've been an entrepreneur. I've run several businesses. I've been a consultant. And so I understand what it takes, those skills that we need to run a business. Some of those are taught within our education system. Most of them are not. And so my commitment is to create an education system where students are learning relevant skills that they can use once they graduate from high school. One of those important skills is entrepreneurship. I'm imagining classes where students can take how to start a business. What are the skills that you need to negotiate contracts? How do you use the talents and the skills that you have, whatever they are, to monetize and provide for your family? And so I'm looking forward to having continued conversations with the council. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I hope that you will reach out if you have questions, concerns that you would like to share, especially when it comes to the Department of Education and how we're delivering the education to students with disabilities. My website is cerseiforsuperintendent.com. You can follow us on social media at Cersei for Super on Instagram or Cersei for Superintendent on Facebook. Again, thank you for this tremendous opportunity to speak with you this evening. I hate that I can't be there, but I certainly look forward to staying in touch. And remember that the state school superintendent race may be at the bottom of the ballot, but education is on the top of my mind. Thank you.
Second, and we're going to have Richard Woods come out and speak. He's the Republican running for school superintendent. Mr. Woods?
Well, good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Again, I am running for the office of State School Superintendent. I'm your current State School Superintendent, and I've held this office for going on 8 years now. But to think about for what are we doing for students of disabilities, students of special needs, to make sure that everyone has a great education. If you look at our vision statement at the Department of Education, it's preparing students for life. And we say that for all students, not just some or not, this category, but making sure that we have an advantage for all students. As we look what we have currently been doing, and again, this is not something that is new for us at the Department of Education. One of the things, as I was a teacher and an administrator I worked hand in hand with children with disability. I was actually over, the department which we instituted special needs children, and again, creating, IEPs and things of this nature to support education. Well, for us, that means including each and every individual. We want to make sure that we have the individuals in the class that is right for them. And that begins with the regular classroom. That means that we are having inclusion within those classrooms, having support, teachers that are in that classroom, and supporting all aspects of that education. As we think about education as well, with the whole child within the Department of Education, this extends, first and foremost, to make sure that we do the right thing. And of course, what that means is doing the right thing is that we are, putting our kids in situations where they can succeed. We're, training our teachers, doing more professional learning to support that across the board. Also, when you look at special needs in education, we extend that to opportunities on the sports field to make sure that these kids have opportunities that perhaps are not necessarily seen as being all-inclusive, but we work with Georgia High School Association across the board. Thinking about, for our kids with that, preparing them for life, and that means we got to get them ready to transition into post-secondary. What does that look like? That means, we're working with higher ed to make that transition very smooth. We're looking at, how do we prepare those 504s and IEPs to make sure that they are aligned with what our kids' needs are. Also, as we think about this moving forward, we are trying to prepare ways that are looking at not only four-year universities, but also colleges. One of the things we are doing with, especially dual enrollment, we have 3 state schools, 2 for the School of the Deaf and 1 of the School of the Blind. And, we're working with our technical school system to provide opportunities for our kids. And so I think as we continue to move forward, we are dedicated, and I am dedicated to make sure that we are providing a great education. Not just doing something, but make sure that we're doing the right thing for each and every child. So again, I look forward to serving you again for the next 4 years and working and continuing that collaboration day in and day out. Thank you very much.
So we're going to keep it rolling, y'all, and make sure that we get this going and keep the train on the tracks. The next office that we're going to be listening to is the Georgia Labor Commissioner. This person who holds this office oversees labor regulations and development of Georgia's workforce. Can I get a raise of hands or a shout or a yell about who wants to go to work? Y'all, we all want to go to work. So this year's candidates are Democrat William Bodie, Republican Bruce Thompson, and Libertarian Emily Anderson. Participating tonight, we have Emily Anderson and Bruce Thomas. But before I go into that, I want to make sure our community leader has a few moments to ask their 2 questions. Community leader?
I'm sorry, y'all. My name is Carmen Vera. I live in Lawrenceville, Georgia. I'm a self-advocate for development with disabilities. I do community strong, and I encourage you to come on to community strong. So let me get started on my question for y'all. As labor commissioner, how would you provide leadership and development competitive and self-employment opportunities for Georgians with disabilities? And then my next question, do you support ending the practice of paying Georgians with disabilities self-minimum wage.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. And I want to invite Emily Anderson to respond to those two questions. I don't blame you. I'm sitting.
Hi. So for the first question, if you could repeat that.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. Or if
Do you want me to repeat it again?
Yes.
As labor commissioner, how would you provide leadership and development, competitive and development, self-employment opportunities for people like me?
I'm going to start with the self-employment opportunities. One of the things specific to my party that I absolutely totally agree with them 100% on specifically is with licensing. Getting licensing at any time for anything is a pain in the butt. There are jobs and businesses where they want you to get all these licenses and insurance and all of this other stuff where honestly it's completely pointless. There's no need for it. So doing away with some of that licensing and some of those requirements where it is not needed, and for those where it is needed, making that process much simpler, much more streamlined. You know, you had to fill this form out in triplicate. Why? One form. As far as leadership capabilities or leadership abilities, we have career centers. Let's make them that. So whether it is leadership training open to all individuals or even just skills training to further your own ambitions, there should be a place for you to go to do that, whether it is online or to one of the Department of Labor's career centers. You should be able to do that. Okay, and what was the next one?
Do you support Georgians with not being paid? Self-minimum wage.
If you are doing a job, you should get paid for it fairly and adequately. Whatever it is, however long it takes you, you should be paid for it. And you should be paid as much as you are worth. And that is basically fairly and adequately. Where you can take care of yourself, potentially take care of your family, and take care of everything that you need to take care of.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So now, I want to go to the. We have a video from Bruce Thompson, who was able to respond. I'm going to do a brief image description. He is wearing glasses and a light blue shirt, sitting in a car and ready to answer questions. So y'all, let's get the video to play.
Hi there, this is Senator Bruce Thompson. Thank you so much for the privilege of being able to participate in Georgia's Council on Developmental Disabilities. As you can see, I'm driving today with other commitments, but I have pulled over and I wanted to send this in to you. It is very important that our state has an environment that is open and supportive of all of our citizens, and that includes those with developmental disabilities. Certainly, it's near and dear to my heart. I have a son that was born as not only severe ADHD, but he was an alcohol syndrome baby that has a touch of Asperger's. And so we have fostered an environment at home as well as in school to be able to give him the opportunity and privilege to thrive. And we should do that for each and every citizen we have when given that opportunity. And as hopefully as your next labor commissioner, I intend on doing that. Certainly in our state, We have a workforce shortage, and I think this gives us an opportunity to really get creative in creating some opportunities and fostering some environments where those that have developmental disabilities want to work. Companies should engage and provide that opportunity. From a state government perspective, I believe we should be a model state, and we should foster, not just through advertising, but in tangible ways, jobs and opportunities by marrying up the skill sets of individuals that struggle with developmental disabilities with the opportunities that they can do. There's something to be said when inside you're able to do work. It gives you a sense of pride, and we all deserve that opportunity. So I do support our state being a model state. What can we do in the Department of Labor? Well, certainly my intention is to utilize technology for a lot of reasons, but one of those reasons are we can take the skill set and the abilities of individuals that may struggle with developmental disabilities and match them up with the opportunities that are out there. And when they're matched up, we should be able to give them those opportunities. And then when they're ready to move on to other skills, move up, so to speak, or be promoted, we should be able to create that opportunity to allow that to happen. In some cases, maybe individuals are not able to be promoted or move on to additional skill sets and responsibilities. But I believe the opportunity exists when we use technology to do that. And so I am a strong supporter of that. Listen, again, I apologize that I'm not able to be in person, but certainly want to be very supportive, not only in my role as a senator, but as a candidate to become the next labor commissioner, to make sure that we are inclusive and that each and every individual in our state has the opportunity to reach their fullest potential if that's what they desire. I'm Bruce Thompson for Georgians, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Now we have an opportunity to speak to 3 lovely community members, y'all. So I'm going to hand them the mic so they can introduce themselves, and then I'm going to be able to ask them some questions on why voting is important to them. Are y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to pass the mic down.
Hi, my name is Susan Birch, and voting is very important to me because we have a right, just like anybody else, to vote for who we feel can do the job. Voting is a big deal everywhere, and you have to know who you're voting for. And if you don't know who you're voting for, that's not great. And so you should know their background and who the person is inside and out. And everybody, it doesn't matter if you have a disability or not, we're all equal. We should have equal opportunities just like everybody else. Thank you.
My name's Sheila Jeffrey. I'm from Union City, Georgia. And I think voting is very important because if you're not voting and you're out there speaking up for yourself or even for like people who might need help, then you're gonna basically just let somebody run office and then you're gonna be in a world of trouble because you're not gonna know, oh my God, I just let this person run for office and I'm not getting the adequate transportation or the adequate care I need or Medicaid or like for my daughter, she's special needs, she has ADHD and some other medical issues, and she's in a regular classroom with the 504, but if I don't vote for the right superintendent for the school system, my child might not get the proper education she needs. So being here tonight is very important. So our logo and our very famous logo, and I know my crew knows this, rise up and speak out.
Sheila Jeffrey, everyone, I don't know how can I top that, but I'll try my hardest.
All right, Senator Todd.
Yes. So hi everyone again, I am Darian Todd. So the reason why I think voting is important is all voices matter when it comes to voting. And if you think you have something to vote about or something to speak up on, and if you don't think it's right, go ahead, speak up about it and vote about it. And if you feel like someone shouldn't be in office, if you've done the research, vote, because your vote matters and your vote can change the world for all people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and the people that don't have it. Vote, and it's very important. Thank you. This is Darian.
So folks, we heard about why voting is important and how are we going to get people to get out to the polls. But I just want to ask the community members, what are your tips on voting? Do you have any tips for the audience tonight?
One of the tips that I have that I've done, and it makes it easier, is before you go vote, print yourself a sample ballot, and that way you know who's running. It makes it so much easier. And getting transportation, because that is an issue for me. And so I always try to ask somebody to take me when it's convenient for them. And if I'm not sure what to do, as Sheila said, you ask questions, you rise up and speak out. Don't be afraid to ask. But like I said, make sure you're voting for who you want, not for somebody telling you who they think that you should vote for, but who you want to vote for. That's what's important, and that's what matters.
Basically, like she said, research. Google, Chrome, Safari, whatever you have, your research. You have to print it out and so it'll be big print for you. You have to make it large print, however you got to do it. If you have to make it where it talks to you, whatever, do your research. Don't just, I see who's on the candidate ballots. All right, let me just pick this one. No, research, because you might pick the wrong one. Please do your research. And then also, if you are going to go in-person voting, please be safe, be prepared, and make sure you have what you need, because there is a lot of laws changing this year. So please make sure you read up on the new laws so that you're prepared when you do go vote in person. Just please be prepared.
So, hello everyone again. So, tips on going to voting. So, go with a friend. Also, like Sheila said, do your research. And if you need help when you get to the threshold to go vote, and if you need time to fill out your ballot, just say, hey, I need help filling out the ballot. Don't be afraid to, advocate for yourself and say, hey, I need these tools to help me do this very, very important thing that can help people in Georgia live their best lives. And also, go with a friend. If you don't have a friend, go with a parent. Just be safe and do your research on your people. So, yeah.
So folks, we heard some amazing things and amazing tips and tricks about how to make sure our votes are counted and how to make sure going to vote is made simple. And like Susan Birch said, having a sample ballot means the difference in the world. So I will make sure everyone knows there's an opportunity for folks to get sample ballots for the upcoming election in the lobby. So we have that available for folks. And also, I just want to touch on a point. You said do your research. Do your research. We always hear that in school, do research. We hear from our families, do research. What exactly should we be looking for when we're looking at different candidates? Is there something that you would say, always look for this?
I would say just their background, and if they are a trusting individual, honest, and if they're going to do the job and make the promises promises they say. 'Cause a lot of people say they're going to do it, but they don't always do it. So you want to make sure they're going to do it. Also, the other thing I have trouble with is the amendment questions they ask you on the ballot. And it's always good to read about the yes and no questions, because sometimes you get up there and you're not sure if you should say yes or no. And that's very important to me, to answer it honestly. So answering, reading about those on the sample ballot is just as important as the candidates, but just to make sure you know who the person is before you vote for them, because you don't want to vote for the wrong person. Thank you.
And I'm not going to say this in a meaningful way like they're criminals or nothing, but basically what I do is a whole background check on them. Because I want to know where they came from. I want to know, are they going to do what they say they're going to do? Because they could say they did it for 4 years prior. Okay, well, you did it 4 years prior. Let me see what you did 4 years ago. Are you going to improve the next 4 years if I vote for you? That's what I do. I always make sure I go in depth of everything I'm looking at in a candidate before I vote, because I just don't want to sit here tonight and say, okay, I heard all the voices speak, and then all right, I made my decision. I'm going with this candidate. No, when I leave here tonight, I'm still going to go back and research on every candidate that's running, because you could tell me tonight this is what you're going to do, but I need to make sure that's what you're going to fulfill your promises. So I would say, even though when you leave here, if you're doing it virtual or you're here in person, please don't make this your final decision for your candidate. Please go back and research on your candidate to make your final decision, because you don't want to stop here tonight. You want to go back and do some more research and look on the candidate, because whatever they might say here tonight might be the mind-boggling, like, oh yes, this is the candidate I want. And then when you go vote and actually put that candidate down, and later down the road, you'll be like, what did I do? You didn't go back and research. We gave you that opportunity. So please do that tonight. If I didn't teach you anything else, please, after you leave here tonight, don't make this your final decision. Go back home and do your research on the candidates that are still running. Thank you.
I would say number one is, like I say, do your research, and that means looking for if they're a part of your district. Are they passionate about the same things that you are passionate about? Are they looking to change things that you want to change in your community? Are they looking for ways to fix things that other people couldn't fix while they were in office? Do they talk about the right things? Do they stay true to what they're going to do for your community? And also, can you trust them? And can you, number one, see them in office, I guess? And also, can you just, if they're truthful, that's all I gotta say. Just do your research and make sure that they're in your district and believes in the same things that you believe in, and how they're gonna help your children to be the best leaders after us. Thank you.
One thing I want to say is, I'm sure you've heard of this, you can't judge a book by its cover. Remember that.
Oh my gosh, y'all, that is so true. I don't read often, but every now and then when I do, you can never judge it by the cover. So folks, give one last round of applause to these amazing community members. Thank y'all so much for coming up. Yes, thank y'all. We are going to get right back on track for our candidates. So our next office that we're going to hear from is the State Insurance Commissioner office. This person holds this office and regulates the insurance industry and ensures fire safety in Georgia. This year's candidates are Democrat Janice Laws Robinson and Republican John King. Participating tonight, we we have Janice Laws Robinson, and we're excited to have them come up on stage. And I want to introduce our community members, our community member that is going to be asking the next set of questions.
All right, greetings. I am Ben Liskey. I have brown hair. I currently have leopard print on, jeans. Anyway, so I'm also an autism self-advocate and all that kind of material there. So ask you, as state insurance commissioner, how will you ensure Georgians with disabilities have access to safe and reliable elevators across the state? And the second one, yes, I'll give you the second one. And that is, how will you as insurance commissioner protect Georgians with disabilities from potential discrimination by insurance companies?
Great questions. Good evening, everyone. I am Janice Laws Robinson, the Democratic nominee for Georgia Insurance Commissioner, and I am truly grateful to be here with you this evening. I was here in 2018. I was also the 2018 Democratic nominee for Insurance Commissioner, and I remember attending this event and really having a great time. So I was excited to come back and be with you as a community, because all communities need and deserve to be seen and heard and given the same attention, no matter where you are in the state. And so I just want you to know that I am excited to be here. So my background is in insurance. I am a licensed insurance professional. I've worked in the industry for more than 2 decades, and I've worked with Georgia families just like you. I'm running because I am committed to ensuring that we have affordable rates across the state, access to quality, affordable healthcare, and to hold insurance companies accountable. So to answer the questions, the first question is regarding elevator safety. And many of you may have heard just this past year, we had a student died in an elevator accident. And that is tragic, and that's unfortunate. And that is because they did not have the correct number of inspectors to really make sure the elevators are safe. So as insurance commissioner, one of my top priorities will be to ensure that we have the number of inspectors that's needed. And so to hire more inspectors to make sure all elevators are safe, and to have conversations with organizations like yourself to see what are some of the safety features that would make a difference for individuals with disabilities, so that we can make sure that we're putting the right parameters in place and that the inspectors are following protocols that not just benefit able-bodied persons, but people with disability as well. And number 2, the question was, how will I ensure that insurance companies are not discriminating against persons with disability? And this is one of my top priorities as well, is to stop discrimination. And this is across the board. I talk about this on my campaign. Discrimination against Black and brown communities, communities with disability, LGBTQ plus communities. And the way that I will do this is by holding the insurance companies accountable, that they have to prove that their algorithms and their data that they're using does not discriminate against people with disability, because they ask questions that have nothing to do with the actual risk at hand. And so if I will investigate and I will hold them accountable, and if I find that they're using practices that discriminate against communities with disability, they will be fined and they will be held accountable, because that is unacceptable. And my website is janiceforgeorgia.com, and I do have some information I'll share with you so you can learn more about my campaign and reach out to me, ask questions, so I can work with you as an organization.
Thank you
Yes.
so much. We really appreciate you being here. The next office is State Attorney General. In this office, this person holds the office of the chief lawyer representing Georgia in all legal cases. I know the disability community knows about one legal case, especially this year candidate we have Republican Chris Carr, Democrat Jen Jordan, and Libertarian Martin Cohen tonight. And participating tonight, we have a video from Jen Jordan and a statement from Chris Carr. So we're going to start with the video. I apologize. We're going to ask the questions first. So I want to hear from our community leaders about the two most important questions for Attorney General. Community leader?
I'm Wesley Ford from Jackson Lake. I am 31 years old. I have very short brown hair, a mustache, a goatee, and I am a GCDD council member and self-advocate. I am wearing a black shirt and khaki pants, and my two questions are, what is your commitment to investigating abuse, neglect, exploitation of Georgians with disability, and how will you support the use of supported decision making as a preferred alternative to legal guardianship? And number two, what steps will you take to ensure that Georgia complies with its obligations under the ADA?
Thank you so much, community leader.
Thank you, Charlie. Bless you for being here.
Thank you very much. So now we are going to hear two statements real quick. So I'm going to invite my coworker Star to give those two statements.
Are we here? Yes. Okay, great. So here is Chris Carr's statement. Since taking office in November 2016, I have fought each day to protect Georgia lives, livelihoods, and liberties. This includes working to protect our fellow Georgians with disabilities. Georgia has special laws to protect Georgians with disabilities, and our office will continue to uphold these laws each day. In fact, earlier this month, our Medicaid Fraud Division convicted a woman in Dougherty County for the neglect and exploitation of older and disabled adults. This individual had owned and operated an unlicensed personal care home where residents were left primarily on their own in dirty duplexes with little to no furniture, no air conditioning, broken fixtures, and little in the way of clean clothing. Now she will spend years behind bars for her crimes. Our Consumer Protection Division also recently investigated a company that was taking advantage of disabled adults, and now they will pay the price for violating our strong consumer laws. We will continue to work closely with the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, including as part of our statewide opioid task force. We also provide strong legal representation to our state agencies that support and assist Georgians with disabilities, and will continue to do so. And now I'm going to read Jen Jordan's statement, and it starts off with, "Hello, I am Senator Jen Jordan," but we know that's not true. The rest of it is. "Hello, I am Senator Jen Jordan, your Democratic nominee for Attorney General. I'm so grateful for the Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities for the invitation to participate in tonight's candidate forum. I'm heartbroken I cannot be there in person, but I'm thrilled to see the council's efforts to get out the vote in our disability community as we head into this important election. I wanted to take the time to answer your questions so voters get to know me a little bit better and so they are informed when they head to the ballot box this November. So in response to Wesley's first question, she says, as a lawyer, state senator, and your next attorney general, it is my responsibility to defend the rights of the people of Georgia, no matter their race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or disability status. As Attorney General, if I am made aware of abuse, neglect, or exploitation of those with disabilities, I will put the full force of my office behind investigating this treatment. This type of behavior is unacceptable, and anyone who abuses their positions of power at the expense of others should and will be held accountable under my leadership. I am an advocate for supported decision-making as an alternative to legal guardianship because I believe people with disabilities deserve to have a say in decisions that affect their lives, like where they live and work and with whom they spend their time. By preserving the rights of disabled individuals to make their own supported decisions and by recognizing their competency, we reduce the likelihood of abuse and exploitation. If and when granted, a guardianship should be limited to what is absolutely necessary and personalized to meet the specific needs of each disabled person. As your next Attorney General, I will make sure that the situation of each individual is evaluated independently and thoroughly by our legal system. And in response to the second question, she says, people with disabilities deserve to partake in basic civic activities that people without disabilities tend to take for granted. This includes things like voting, using public transportation, or attending a concert with their friends. However, they have often been excluded from such opportunities, often with legal blessing. The ADA, or Americans with Disabilities Act, is extremely important because it prevents discrimination against people with disabilities and ensures these individuals receive equal treatment. The ADA authorizes the Department of Justice to provide education and technical assistance to individuals, businesses, and local and state governments with rights and responsibilities under the law. This means that it will be my job to ensure ample technical information is available to the public and that appropriate guidelines are followed by all. As Attorney General, I will fight to preserve and advocate for the personal autonomy, freedom, and dignity of each individual living with a disability. I pledge to always prioritize their rights under my leadership. And that's the end of her statement.
Thank you so much, Star. We really appreciate it. Folks, we're so excited to be here. And I just want to announce just one more thing. If you're not registered to vote yet, it's not too late. You can get registered by October 11th. So please, y'all, please get registered to vote. So now I am excited to be bringing y'all the next office of the Secretary of State. This person who holds this office oversees elections, voting, and business licensing in Georgia. That sounds pretty daggum important, y'all. So this year's candidates are Republican Brad Raffensperger, Democrat B. Wynn, and Libertarian Ted Mintz. Participating tonight, we have B. Wynn and Ted Mintz. Yes, so we're going to go to the community and to ask our two questions of the night.
Hello, it's me again, Susan Birch. I am a self-advocate. I live independently on my own since 1993. I own my own condo and I work at Jewish Family and Career Services for nearly 29 years. And I am Jewish. I am part of Uniting for Change for over 2 years, and I'm a single white female wearing a red top and brown hair. And my two questions that I have are, how will you ensure that Georgians with disabilities are not negatively impacted by current changes in voting accommodations. My second question is, how will you support Georgians with disabilities in becoming self-employed business owners? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. So, folks, we're going to start with B. Wynn's video first.
Good evening, Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities. My name is B. Wynn, and I am the Democratic nominee for Georgia Secretary of State. I'm running for Secretary of State because I believe that every eligible Georgian should have access to the ballot box without barriers. As a state lawmaker, I opposed and voted against Senate Bill 202, the 98-page bill that makes it harder for Georgians to vote, including seniors and including those living with disabilities. That bill reduces our access to absentee ballots, and it reduces access to drop boxes by taking away the drop boxes that were once available 24/7 and ADA accessible, located outdoors. As a state lawmaker, I also advocated for those over the age of 65 and those living with disabilities to be able to go to the front of the line during the early voting period, just as they're able to do on Election Day. As Secretary of State, I support expanding access to absentee ballot voting, and I support returning to the model of the secure drop boxes that were once 24/7 ADA accessible and outdoors. As Secretary of State, I would also increase funding and resources to local election boards so that voters with disabilities are accommodated at polling precincts, including purchasing more headsets that are available across the state of Georgia. Now, when it comes to businesses, entrepreneurship, self-employment, licensure, I believe in the same models of accessibility, including making sure that those living with disabilities have a streamlined process and have access to their economic futures and dreams. That means adopting an inclusive model that takes into account those living with disabilities when it comes to the licensure process, when it comes to businesses, and when it comes to the procurement process in the state of Georgia. As a lawmaker, I supported legislation that would have ended the discriminatory practices that's used by employers who refuse to pay those living with disabilities federal minimum wage. I believe all Georgians should have access and dignity when it comes to being able to cast their ballots at the ballot box and when it comes to building their lives and entering into the workforce. I'm B. Wynn, and I'm running for Secretary of State. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to earn your support on November 8th.
Thank you very much. Folks, we're excited to bring you the next candidate. But first, a word from our sponsors. We want to bring the next community advocate video to play, but before we have Ted Mintz join us.
The reason I think voting is important to me because it's another way for me to, get my voice out and get my voice to be heard. And I also believe that my voice matters when it comes to elections, and everybody else, disability or not, their voice matters as well. So I think it's really, for me, important for me to, vote. And I just think it's a way for me to be a well-known, rounded citizen, and being able to, vote is a privilege for me and other people as well.
That's fantastic. I'm so excited that we were able to hear a lovely statement from our community leaders. And folks, we have the power. The disability community has the power to be able to get our voice heard. And that's what we're doing tonight, is getting our voice heard. So, folks, I want to make sure to give you a couple more dates that I want y'all to remember. Early voting in Georgia begins October 17th. And, folks, we got to make sure we get out to the polls. Saturday, you got that right. Saturday voting in Georgia begins October 22nd. And the last day to request an application for an absentee ballot is October 28th. And y'all, it's Ted Mitts time. So we're excited to bring him. Mr. Mitts, are you here?
I am here. My name is Ted Metz. I'm wearing a blue shirt with sailboats on it, and I have brown hair, and I'm missing one of my ears from cancer. I'm an Air Force brat. I grew up all over the country. I was a Boy Scout. I'm a veteran. I'm a constitutional conservative, a patriot, and a grandfather. I'm running for Secretary of State because I would like to see very much that our elections are safe, free, fair, and transparent. What I plan on doing to make sure that people with disabilities are not negatively impacted by any changes in voting accommodations is to be cognizant and help within the legislature to advocate for people with disabilities because I'm a person with disabilities myself. As far as any laws currently, SB 202 is our voting law. There were some significant improvements in SB 202, which expanded the numbers of days of early voting. It did do some modifications to the drop boxes, but they're still available 24 hours, 7 days a week. So I don't see that as an issue. And as far as early voting, absentee balloting, 6 months is an awfully long time to request an absentee ballot. 78 days seems extremely reasonable. So I don't see how that had any negative impact. What I plan to do with helping to support Georgians with disabilities becoming self-employed business owners is to make sure that there are no extra impediments in the licensing process for anyone at all. It should be equal to every citizen of Georgia. We can make accommodations for people with disabilities in the format that we use and in the help that we provide to make sure that people can have access to our online registration system. One thing that I thought of is actually helping with self-employment by including information on how to become self-employed and how to run a business right on the Secretaries of State website, which is not there. Providing lessons on how to become self-employed, I think, is a very important thing. Since we're not really teaching it in school, we might as well teach it as an after-school program or even an additional program as part of the Secretary of State's obligation to make sure that Georgians can be self-sufficient. The other thing I think we can do as Secretary of State is actually form a coalition with businesses to help bring opportunities to the disabled community for either self-employment or some sort of contract employment. So my name is Ted Metz, METZ. My website is tedmetz.com. You can find out more information about me on my website, and I would appreciate your vote in November. And I am a libertarian, which means leave me alone, don't tell me what to do, and don't take my stuff. Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
I'm not gonna lie, we could have done it without the community leaders tonight, and I'm so excited to have y'all here. So now I want to do one last quick video of why voting is important. He is a white man wearing a gray shirt and red headphones.
Wants to hear my voice.
That is fantastic. They want the community to hear their voice and make sure their voice is heard in the disability community. So thank you so much, community advocate. Next, y'all, next is the office of the U.S. Senator. This person holds this office in one of two federal lawmaking representatives in Georgia in the United States Senate. This year's candidates are Democrat Raphael Warnock and Republican Herschel Walker. Participating tonight, we have Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock both doing videos. But before we do that, we want to make sure we ask the question that the community leader has.
Very good, thank you. So, hello, I'm Philip Woody from Dunwoody, and I'm a white man with a short white beard. I'm wearing a dark gray suit and maroon tie. This is. Oh, okay. So I'm Philip Woody from Dunwoody. I'm a white man with a short white beard, and I'm wearing a dark gray suit and a maroon tie. And this is my son, Evan Woody, who lives with us. And he is a young white male with brown hair and a clean-shaven face. And he's also wearing a dark gray suit with a blue tie with guitars on it. So the two questions for the candidates are, as you're aware, Georgia is currently in a crisis in securing direct support professionals to build service provider capacity. What legislation will you create and or support to improve the quality and stability of Georgia's home and community-based services? And the second question is, what role as a U.S. Senator will you play in ensuring that the practice of paying Georgians with disabilities sub-minimum wage is ended?
Thank you so much, community leaders. We couldn't have done this tonight without y'all. So Herschel Walker has submitted his response video, and we're going to play his first. He is an African-American male wearing a red shirt and black pants, sitting on a campaign bus with campaign logos around him.
Hi, this is Herschel Walker. I want everyone to know I will always be a champion for anyone in the disabled disability community. God bless.
Fantastic. So now we're going to go to Raphael Warnock's video. He submitted a video response as well. He's an African-American male sitting in an office wearing glasses and a black suit and tie. Y'all, let's roll the video.
Well, hello, Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities. Thank you so very much for having me, and thank you for the important work that you do every single day. You know, as I've heard from the disability community, access is not just about a ramp or having a qualified ASL interpreter. It's also about ensuring a more inclusive community, a holistic approach where everyone can live with dignity and succeed. This is at its core a civil rights issue. What kind of country do we live in if we don't do all we can to ensure that Georgians with disabilities can attend school and have the assistive tools they need to succeed and learn? What kind of country do we live in if we don't do all we can to ensure that all of our colleges and our training programs are inclusive? What kind of country are we if we don't do all we can to ensure that Georgians with disabilities can not only access a job, but get paid fair wages for a day's work? That is not a country that honors the dignity of work. What kind of country do we live in if we don't do all we can to ensure that Georgians with disabilities can have access to housing and support that allows them to live independently in the communities that they are so much a part of? As the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. used to say, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And justice must include honoring the dignity of every Georgian. And so that's why I'm committed to the work of creating a world that provides opportunity for all Georgians, no matter their race, gender, sexual identity, or disabilities. Everybody needs to be able to live, learn, work, play, and worship in their communities. I hope I can count on your support in this fight so we can continue creating a more inclusive and equitable community for all of our citizens. Thank you so very much for the work that you do. Keep the faith and keep looking better.
So, folks, can we give it up one more time for the candidates for U.S. Senate? And one more time for our community leader as well. So we are excited to be coming in on two more races coming up. The next office that we're going to be talking about is the office of Georgia's Lieutenant Governor. This person holds this office, is the second highest elected official in the state, and the president of the state senate. This year's candidates are Democrat Charlie Bailey and Republican Burt Jones and Libertarian Ryan Graham. Participating tonight, we have Charlie Bailey. And y'all, I want to open up the floor to our community leaders who are asking the questions once again. Community leaders.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Hibben. This is my daughter, Hannah. We are representing McDonough, Georgia, Henry County, south of Atlanta. We are both white females, one young and one not so young. We both have short brown hair. We both wear glasses. And Hannah has Down syndrome and is wearing a brown dress, and I'm wearing a floral top. And Hannah has been a self-advocate now for years, working multiple jobs, and has had one of her jobs for over 4 years now. We're honored to be here this evening to ask questions of our Lieutenant Governor candidates. Our first question is, as the second highest elected official in the state, what policies and priorities do you plan to focus on to improve the lives of Georgians with disabilities? If you have yet to develop them, what is your plan to learn about disability issues? And our second question, do you support Medicaid funding that favors home and community services over institutional settings? We look forward to hearing your answers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, community leaders. We really appreciate it. So now we're going to start with Charlie Bailey submitted his response video. An image description. He is a white man in a dark blue jacket and a tie standing in front of a large picture.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charlie Bailey, and I'm proud to be the Democratic nominee for Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Georgia. I'm an 8th-generation Georgian, a 7th-generation Harris Countyan. If you don't know where Harris County is, it's that little slice of God's country over on the border with Alabama, right above Columbus. I'm an attorney and a former prosecutor, and I've spent my career fighting to get people justice. Well, let me tell you what I believe in. I believe that we're all human beings, that we all love our families, that we all deserve the same dignity, the same safety, the same justice, and the same opportunity to leave for our kids a better life than the one that we had. My name is Charlie Bailey. I'm proud to be the Democratic nominee for Lieutenant Governor, and I would be proud to earn your vote and support in this race. Thank you very much. If I'm lucky enough to become your Lieutenant Governor and President of the State Senate, my number one priority is going to be the expansion of Medicaid to cover the over 600,000 Georgians that don't have health care coverage in our state, to help reopen the 8 rural hospitals that have closed over the last 10 years, one urban hospital to close earlier this year, and another set to close, a level 1 trauma center, on November 1st, all because of the abject moral failing not to expand Medicaid. And by the way, it's something that we're all already paying for. Last I checked, the people of Georgia are taxpayers too. And with our federal tax dollars, we're paying for our brothers and sisters in Indiana and Ohio and California and New York to have health care through Medicaid expansion, but our people don't have it here. We've got to expand Medicaid to help them out. And y'all know that will have an outsized impact on the community of folks that live with disabilities that rely on that kind of Medicaid funding. If we bring ourselves up and into the 21st century and tap into these federal tax dollars that are already available, it will be a boon for the entire state and help Georgians that are living with disabilities right now. Secondly, transportation opportunities. When I talk about every person being a human being, every person deserving the same dignity, the same opportunities, the same safety, those transportation opportunities are part of it. And where local governments are not providing the kind of transportation that folks that live with disabilities need to get to work, to get to school, to get their kids around, the state's got to step in and fund those so we don't have people living as second-class citizens in our state, and I'm committed to doing that as well. Yes, I support Medicaid funding that favors home and community services over institutional settings, so people can choose where they want to be when they receive that care. If folks are understandably more comfortable at home, that option needs to be available to them. And as they pay their tax dollars like everybody else, they ought to be able to have that option. And I think favoring that is an important step forward to the dignity of every person and the opportunity of every person to live the kind of life that they want to live. So yes, in short, I agree with that kind of favoring of the home services and community services over just the institutional settings.
Oh, fantastic. We were so excited to have Charlie Bailey and the community leader. So now I get the awesome honor of doing our last office of the night. We made it, y'all. We're almost there. And finally, the last office of the night is the office of governor. The person that holds this office is the chief executive of the state of Georgia, who oversees this branch. And I want to invite my executive director, Darcy Robb. Darcy?
I love how you invited me, even though I'd already walked up here. Thanks, Charlie. It's High Night. I got a great staff. They got your back. Thank you all so much for being with us tonight. We actually have a special unplanned surprise, a good one. We have Derek and Teresa Hurd ready to connect with us virtually, Charlie. So before we do governor, Derek and Teresa.
Perfect.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone.
I believe we can hear you, but give us 1 second to turn up your volume. I believe we have you now. Can you hear us?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Barely, but it's getting better.
Okay. How about now?
If you yell a little bit louder.
Okay, Charlie. Can you hear us now?
We are. Try it one more time.
What about now?
There we go. There we go.
We'll have to yell then, Charlie. Hi, I'm Teresa Hurd from Albany, Georgia. I'm a biracial woman getting ready to be in the 50s. I live in Albany, Georgia. I have long black hair and I have a pink and white blouse on.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Derek Hurd, which is me. I am with Georgia Group for Youth Voice and Youth Choice, which you can all hear me now. I am with Rev Up Georgia and Save My Vote Georgia. I live in Albany, Georgia. I have my own business called Derek's Doodles, doing graphics, art, and I am a voter and disability advocate. I am a black male with blue and white shirt. Being a part of Georgia's growth get out and vote.
Oh. Okay. Gonna read your question.
There are over 7,000 Georgians with disabilities waiting for waiver service in their community. What steps will you take to eliminate the current waiting list for home and community-based service HCB as waivers?
And the second question too?
And the second question is, the unemployment rate of Georgia's with disabilities is higher than the general unemployment rate. What will you do to encourage
Increase.
integrated employment opportunities for Georgians with disabilities, and doing your supporting do you supporting Georgia become a state as a model employer? Sorry, I'm still working on the speech words.
You did good.
Thank you so much for introducing those wonderful questions. So those two questions are for the governor of Georgia. And this year's candidates, we have Republican Brian Kemp, Democrat candidate Stacey Abrams, and Libertarian candidate Shane Hazel. Participating tonight, we have Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp. So we're going to start off with the Stacey Abrams video. Stacey Abrams submitted her response via video. She's an African-American woman with short hair, wearing a tan blazer, orange shirt, and gold necklace, standing in front of a painting.
Currently, Georgia has a 7,000 person waiting list for access to home and community-based services waivers. The state of Georgia can currently afford to not only reduce but eliminate the waiting list by investing $35 million per year. And because we have a $6.6 billion surplus, we have the funds to not only tackle the problem now, but to invest for the future. As governor, I will make it my priority to provide access to these critical waivers because they are an essential part of showing that the state of Georgia cares for those who are disabled. The disabled community in Georgia is diverse, and so should our response be. Access to employment is an essential part of independence and autonomy. And as governor, I will make it my mission to ensure that we are a state model employer. That means improving training, and in fact, mandating training through our universities, at our state agency levels, and through our commissions to ensure that we are doing our best to expand access to hiring. I will also focus on the Employment First Act and do what we should as a state to not only invest in that act, but make certain we are adopting all of the perquisites. Third, I'm going to ensure that as the governor, that I have invested across the board in every agency, someone who is thinking about the needs of the disabled, especially when it comes to the issues of employment. As we talk about moving the state forward, we cannot do so without fully including the disabled community. And as governor, I will follow what I've done during my campaign, which is make it a priority, invest in every level of support, and ensure that there is never a moment we are not paying attention.
Thank you so much, Stacey Abrams. Now, Brian Kemp has submitted his response via video as well. He is a white male with brown hair, standing outside wearing a blue shirt, tan slacks, and a Kemp for Georgia sticker. So let's roll the video.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Governor Brian Kemp. First of all, I just want to thank you all for participating in the candidates forum tonight. I apologize I couldn't be there, but I want to thank the council for their advocacy and great work. Also, I hope you'll join Marty and the girls and I in keeping the folks of the state of Florida in your thoughts and prayers as they recover and still going through Hurricane Ian. I hope you'll also pray for our folks on the Georgia coast as the storm moves up our coastline and into South Carolina. We'll continue to monitor that. Y'all have a great night. God bless, and keep chopping.
Thank you so much, Stacey Abrams and Brian Camp, and also the community leaders. We couldn't have done this tonight without y'all. Now, I just want to now they're about to kick me off stage. So I want to say thank you all to all the candidates who shared their voice and vision for the state of Georgia. Let's give them one last big round of applause to all the candidates. And thank you everyone who's joined tonight, either in person or virtual. We appreciate and are happy to have you all here. So, however, I do want to change the tone for a few minutes. And I want to take a pause to just remember a longtime disability advocate who is not here tonight. His words and his legacy will live on forever in our hearts. Mr. Galen Tootle passed away recently and is a wonderful advocate. And y'all, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege. When I was young, getting into the disability community and really wanting to advocate, Galen Tootle really took me under his wing and really helped me understand how we can advocate together. And Galen Tootle loved this community, and we want to respect him. So we want to quickly play a short video, and the image description is an African-American man wearing glasses, has a yellow shirt on, and a black headset.
It's a right that each and every one of us that we have as American citizens, and I want to make sure that I execute my right to vote. Not only that, having grown up during a time when voting was difficult, because I grew up in the late 60s and early 70s, voting for my people was difficult to do because I grew up in South Georgia. So voting is something that is important for all of us as people. And as one of our great leaders, Justin Dart, says, we have to vote because we vote as if our lives depend on it. And it does, because we determine what type of services that we get, the various resources that we need. So it's important that we vote the people into office that are going to be sensitive to our needs. So voting, it's a life-saving effort. And that is how I look at it. In order to dictate how my life is going to run and have some say in how my life is impacted, then I need to vote. So I vote as if my life depends on it, in the words of Justin Dart.
And now I want to welcome back Darcy Robb back to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you all. Wow, what a night, huh? I've been all over the place, and I think we had too. But this is what we do in this community. We adapt. We adapt and we make it work. Can we have a final round of applause for Charlie Miller, please? Now, thank you so much to the candidates. That was some great candidate participation, folks. That was wonderful. Thank you to our candidates, to our community leaders, to our sponsoring organizations, our viewers and our attendees, our interpreters. Thank you to everyone who made this night possible. So, voters, we have educated ourselves, you have educated yourselves tonight, and the last day to register is October 11th. Mr. Tootle said it, we need to go vote. So you can register or you can check your registration status at MVP, as in my voter page, mvp.sos.ga.gov. Early voting is going to depend on your location in Georgia, so be sure to learn about what options are available in your area. And Election Day is November 8th. And finally, remember, democracy does not end on Election Day. This is an ongoing commitment. So I strongly invite and encourage you to join GCDD's advocacy network by connecting with us at gcdd.org and advocate, always. So one last thank you to our supporting organizations, GAO, Sangha Unity Network, Rev Up Georgia, and Crimmins and Associates. Everyone stay safe. Be sure to vote. Good night, everybody.